Welcome to this eye tutorial. For this I'm using charcoal, my pencil eraser and a kneaded eraser. Let's begin. I always start by drawing up the lines vaguely with my graphite pencil. This way I have the guidelines down and it's a lot easier to go from there. I always remove a little bit of the graphite pencil before I start shading in with charcoal. Simply rub your kneaded eraser lightly against the paper so you don't remove all of the graphite. I've started working on the details of the iris. I'm also adding some of the eyelashes. When working with charcoal, it's important to keep the tip very sharp, especially when drawing eyelashes and smaller details. I've shaded in the pupil and made some smaller details in the iris. I'm beginning to create the round shape of the iris. I do this by adding smaller lines to define the shape of the eye. I switch between adding some charcoal lines and fading out the charcoal with my fingers. I slowly build up the shape and give it depth. I always keep a piece of paper beneath my hand. This way I avoid any smudging of the charcoal. You can also rub some of the charcoal off on the extra paper whenever you get too much charcoal on your hands. It's also a really good idea to wash your hands often to avoid any finger marks on your drawing. I keep adding more lines and details to the iris. Smaller, thicker lines around the pupil and longer, thinner lines around the iris area. The iris and pupil area is really taking shape now. All the little details you add is what makes the eye look realistic in the end. After achieving the desired shading inside the eye, I start using my kneaded eraser to create some highlight. I'm making it very light around the pupil and fading it out. This will give the eye a really contrasted look. I continue by adding more of the eyelashes and drawing up the line over the eyelid. I begin shading the eyelid in a little more and I shade in the corner of the eye. This area is rather dark. Shade in the area little by little so you achieve that nice depth. There's a lot of smaller details as you can see on the reference photo. You can also watch the full-length drawing video where you can see how I make the details a lot better. I will link it down below. The eye is beginning to take shape as I add more dark shading around the eyelid. Use your finger to fade out the shading around the eye. Make sure you don't have too much charcoal on your fingers, otherwise you won't get that light, nice fade out. I add some more of the eyelashes and make the area at the bottom of the lashes a lot darker. I also add some shading at the wet part of the eye, close to the iris. I add some white areas with my kneaded eraser. More darkness I added at the bottom of the lashes. I'm adding some structure to the skin so it doesn't look all polished, just above the eyelashes. I continue building up the shading around the eyelid. I'm beginning to give shape to the outer corner of the eye. Adding some shading at the corner will help give the eye the round shape. I'm beginning to give shape just below the eyebrow. This also helps give the eye its shape. I'm beginning to draw some more eyelashes at the lower part of the eye. I'm building up the shading in the wet corner of the eye while I draw more of the eyelashes. I add some very dark shading at the corner of the eyelid. As you can see, this really gives shape to the eyelid. I add the shading under the eyelashes, which give the area under the eye some shape. More lashes are added and I build the shading under the eye up little by little. Again I add some structure like I did on the upper part of the eyelid. It's all the little details that make a great drawing in the end, so pay attention to those. Notice how much shape the area under the eyelashes are taking the more shading you build up. That's something I really love about drawing with charcoal. The more layers you build up, the more you can see the shape taking form. I add add some really dark eyelashes among the other ones. This creates a variety in the eyelashes, some being darker and some being lighter and thinner. I add some small highlights with my kneaded eraser. Switch between rubbing the kneaded eraser harder against the paper and lighter in some other areas. This will also create some variety. The lower area of the eyelid is beginning to take form. I continue working on the upper part of the eyelid. Build it up layer by layer and watch it take its form. I'm beginning to work on the eyebrow. I quickly switch to the eye area again. I often jump around a little bit as something catches my eyes. I need a little bit more shading. It's all about perfecting the little details. I'm adding structure to the corner of the eye, making the skin a little more rough. Now I'm back shading in the eyebrow, adding a lot of lines. When creating eyebrows, you don't need to follow every little detail on the photo. Again, it's about adding lighter strokes and darker strokes and fading it out with your fingers. Don't worry about fading out the lines you already drew. You can easily add more, and this way not all areas look exactly the same. In my opinion, it's important not to make the eyebrow strokes too even and perfect, because in general, natural male eyebrows aren't even and perfect. I continue adding strokes, smaller, thicker ones, longer, lighter ones, fading it out with my fingers and adding some more strokes. This way you build up the layers, and eventually the eyebrow is beginning to look thicker and more full. Again, don't be afraid not to follow the reference photo completely. Find your own flow and keep doing that. The most important thing is to make it look natural and not too even. I'm beginning to add some darker areas in the eyebrow and continue working on the details. The eyebrow is beginning to take form. I'm drawing around the lighter hairs. Making it very dark around the light hair is making them pop out a little more. The model has both very dark hairs and very light hairs combined. It really depends on the person's eyebrow, so in this case I'm making the white hairs. I keep adding darkness in the brow area. I'm adding a thicker layer of charcoal at the outer corner of the eyebrow. This area needs to be very dark, so don't be afraid to press a little harder here, as you won't risk making it too dark. Switch between adding a lot of strokes and blending it out with your fingers. I'm giving the eyelid a lot more darkness. I'm keeping the area just above the eye crease a little lighter. This will help give the eyelid the shape. I'm also keeping the area under the eyebrow a little lighter in shading. This defines the shape of his eyelids. I add a bit more darkness just above the outer corner of the eyebrow. I keep adding more shading in the eyebrow. It's the little details that makes a big difference in the area. Add some thinner lines at the edge of the eyebrow. It will make it look less perfect. Make sure they are not too visible everywhere. This will make it look natural. I continue working at the eyebrow. Small lines. I shade them out with my fingers and add some more lines. In the end, it will make the eyebrow look full. I shade in the corner of the eye near the nose. I gently add some charcoal and blend it out with my fingers. I continue doing this until I get the desired darkness. I work some more around the eye, giving the skin some more depth and the right shape, and also giving the skin some structure and make it look less perfect. More details are added to the eyebrow. This eyebrow in particular has a lot of details. It really is all about finding the highlight in the eyebrow, the characteristic look of the person's eyebrow, and follow that shape. Where you add every single hair isn't as important, as long as you give it fullness and it has some depth. You shouldn't bother drawing every single hair unless you are going for a hyper-realistic look. But that's another tutorial, I suppose. I like it realistic, but I still like it to look like a drawing. And I like for my artwork to have a bit of a dreamy touch. I'm jumping around, adding some details here and there. Some shading in the eyelid crease. Some smaller details in the iris. And some more eyelashes. I'm making the eyelashes a little longer near the eye corner. It's all about that last finish. Adding some highlights on the eyelid and on the lower part of the eye. Those highlights will add structure to the skin as well. I keep doing this around the eye. I continue doing this until I feel it looks like I want. If you scroll back a little, you can actually see how much of a difference those highlights has made to the structure of the skin. I add some more shading beneath the eye. This will again make the shape of his eyes more visible. When you look at the drawing, pay attention to all the little highlights and see what a difference it makes. Look at the lower area of the eye. The highlights around the eyelashes, those small white dots. Some of them larger and not as light. Notice the white line on the wet area. The white eyelashes near the outer corner of the eye, adding more than just a dark area. It all adds up and make your drawing look really good. Keep your focus and keep working on all those little details, and you will be able to create some amazing artwork. Find a type of paper that works well for you. I normally go with very smooth drawing paper, but some like it a little more grainy. I have listed my paper below, but you might find something else better for you. If you are new to charcoal, I really recommend trying these tutorials a few times. Charcoal takes some practice. You will be better in time, so practice a lot and you will see some amazing results. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial. If you try it out, I would love to hear how it went. You're welcome to leave a comment below or send the drawing you did to my social media or through email. I would love to see it. If you have any wishes for a future tutorial, please let me know below. I may create it for you. Thanks so much for watching and see you in the next video.